I'm Sathwik, and my presentation is on WinRAR vulnerability that is being exploited by multiple APTs. So we'll be looking at one specific APT in this case study. So before getting into it, I'm Sathwik, working as a researcher at Quick Heal India. So I'm part of the APT team. Like I'll be covering mostly work related to hunting APT, specifically targeting India, doing malware analysis, and delving into dark web as well. Previously, I worked at a government organization in India, which is related to experience on offensive security. And I've also presented at some of the few conferences as well. So today's agenda will be specifically on WinRAR vulnerability that is weaponized by multiple APTs. So the specific APT will be looking for a case study where we'll cover almost around 6 clusters and different themes. What are the correlations with other APTs, and then finally conclude with the takeaways. So the vulnerability in this case is of last year, though it is still being seen sometimes in the wild. So this is 38831. So the vulnerability is like a previously unknown 0-day vulnerability, which is basically a logical bug. So it is being exploited where WinRAR version less than 6.23 is exploited, and it has been assigned a CVSS score of around 7.8. So what basically happens is that how this WinRAR can be, a malicious document can be crafted is the WinRAR will contain basically a folder and a common benign file. So both will have the same name, and the actual payload is present inside this folder. So once the benign file has been extracted, what it does is it tries to extract that file into the temp directory. But what we observed is because of this vulnerability, and since both the folder name and the file name are having the same file, the same name, so even the payload present in the folder is also getting extracted. Apart from the benign file, or we can say that the benign file is a decoy file in this case. So this is because a whitespace extension is present after if you can see after the extension .pdf, there is a white space. So because of this, there is a logical bug. So instead of that, it is extracting both of them into temp directory, and then it will use the shell execute API to execute first the payload. And how it is executing is that first it tries to see that if the file is valid or not, but because of the whitespace extension, it gets confused initially, and then it uses the API path unquote spaces so that it will get the complete extension. I mean in this case, you can see that PDF whitespace and then .exe. So in that way, this vulnerability is being weaponized by multiple APTs. So if you see, first Group IB discovered this and published a blog in around August of 2023. But they have mentioned that they have seen this in the wild, and firstly Gulloader used this vulnerability for its exploitation. And later in July, we have seen Dark Casino to drop DarkMe malware. And once the patch was released, a lot of APTs pounced upon this vulnerability, because if you see, it's very easy to craft this specific exploit. So many Russian APTs like APT28, 29, APT44 try to exploit this, targeting NATO and US countries, and then we have seen like uptake in September, October, November as well, where specifically North Korean APTs and even SideCopy APT, that is our main case study, has exploited this. Even in 2024, if we see that it is exploitation has decreased, but it is still being seen slowly in some activist groups as well. Even recently, last month, I think this was exploited. So coming to our first cluster for APT SideCopy. So SideCopy is linked to Pakistan, so which is known for targeting India. And how it exploited WinRAR is that basically it sends a spear phishing email that is a zip archive. So this zip archive, as we have seen, contains the final payload inside that folder, and then the decoy file. So once the decoy file is triggered, it finally leads to a payload that is known as AllaKore RAT, which is again an open source custom remote access tool. And this was connecting specifically to an IP address that you can see. And the decoy that we have seen previously, so previously 2 folders we have seen, so both of them are containing the same decoys. So if you see the decoy, it is like a letter to the Ministry of Defense. So again, confirming that it's targeting a Defense Ministry of India. But this is not how we found like it is exploiting this WinRAR vulnerability. So normally, like the typical scenario, we know that SideCopy uses LNK to remotely trigger HTA files using MSHTA. So in around October, during the same time that WinRAR was being exploited more, we have observed a zip archive called docscanner.october. So it is containing a shortcut file which is triggering an MSHTA on a remote domain. So all these zip and the payloads, everything are hosted on a specific domain called Rockwell Royal Homes. So if we observe the specific HTA file, so it is having a typical generated HTA file where it has functionalities like checking .NET version, doing basic decoding stuff, getting the AV installed. And finally, what it does is this HTA contains embedded DLLs, EXEs, and the final decoy as well. So it is dynamically invoking this DLL in memory of MSHTA. So that is how it is actually dropping the final payload. And in this case, if you see that the final payload that the HTA drops is something new, which is a .NET based RAT that we named as DRat based on the PDB path. And it is again having a typical functionality where it is having 13 commands for its C2 communication. But if you see that it is connecting to the same IP that AllaKore RAT was connecting, but on a different port. So this is how we reverse track that how it is exploiting this specific vulnerability. And one more interesting thing that we found in this cluster, apart from these two campaigns, is that firstly, this domain is resolving to another IP, to a specific IP address. And this IP address was also seen with its previous campaigns in October and August. And it was also using the same domain, which is again related to Ministry of Defense, related to the delegation of Saudi Arabia, but again, Ministry of Defense. So if you see the another zip archive that is being hosted. So both are named similarly, like docscanner October and docscanner August. But if you see that it is not targeting specifically Windows environment, it is targeting Linux environment. So it is containing an ELF stager, which is again hosting like a PDF file. So coming to the Linux stager, so it is again a Go-based ELF binary, and it is performing tasks like setting the persistence through cron tab, and then finally downloading the decoy, and then downloading another payload called as RAT. But if you see, it is dropping all these payloads in the Linux directory local share. So observe this sequence, that is how it is setting persistence and how it is dropping payloads into this specific folder. So now coming to our first correlation. So previously we have found that SideCopy is using this Linux stager, but this same sequence of commands was found in other blogs like Upticks and Zscaler, where in March 2023 it was exploited by APT36. So APT36 is again another Pakistan-linked APT group targeting, mostly focused again targeting on India. And if you see, so it is finally dropping. So this Linux stager is used to drop the Golang-based Poseidon, which is again an open source Mythic agent-based framework payload. And the same thing again, if you see here, it is using PyInstaller, whereas Zscaler has mentioned that the same sequence was found in August 2023 as well. But here it is using a desktop entry. So if you see, how the same sequence is present. So this is how we found the first correlation that again SideCopy is confirmed to be a subgroup of APT36. So if you see specifically Poseidon, the payloads that we have seen from last year, and still it is being used in 2024 as well, and that is in June to August. And if you see, that is the time in India where the file taxing season is. So they are using like checklist for that LTC claims and a different kind of flavors like related to security audits. And we found that all these decoys are hosted on a Google Drive specifically linked to these compromised Gmail IDs. Now coming to the final RAT. So again, RAT is the same as an open source RAT that is same as again AllaKore RAT, and it is PyInstaller based. So from this RAT we extracted the configuration files, and then we found that it is containing a unique username called Lee. So this was I think found by Telsi also way back in 2021 that the same username was used in ArrestRat as well, but it was not clearly associated with SideCopy. And all the naming conventions of this specific RAT, if you see, they are starting with the BOSS, boss, and then boss update, boss help. So boss is again like an operating system based on Linux, which is being installed in a lot of Indian government systems. So it is again specifically targeting, luring these victims. And these are again the same similar kind of C2 commands where we see that the decoy is again targeting the Ministry of Defense. So this is the first overview of the first cluster where we found the different correlations and the 3 different campaigns across this cluster. And another interesting thing is on this C2 that is used for ArrestRat, it is using a port, and this port is hosting the pfSense firewall. So using this firewall, it is usually doing the C2 communication. So coming to the second cluster, so here now we are going to look at different clusters of SideCopy and see that how more correlations can be established with this APT36. So this is another similar kind where you see that the left side is again targeting Windows and the right side is targeting Linux. And in this case, we found that both the compromised domains are different, and last time we saw that it was the same domain that is being hosted, but here different domains are used, but again they are resolving to the same IPs used in previous campaigns, and the same decoy was used in both, unlike we have seen previously where different decoys are used. And targeting the Linux is almost the same in this cluster as well, which leads to finally ArrestRat. But if you see in the Windows-based targeting, here it is again dropping another second stage of HTA and then another DLL as well. So this DLL is basically side-loaded. So if you see again the ELF and the Linux and Windows systems, both the naming is again pretty same, and it is again containing the white space extension, and it is being targeted since August as well. So coming to the DLL, so the DLL is known as action RAT. So this is side-loaded with persistence. So side-loading is done basically through 2 different Windows default applications like Credential Wizard and EFS Reiki Wizard. So the DLL here is duser.dll, and if you see credwiz.exe is the actual Credential Wizard that is copied from a System32 folder and renamed as CDR-zip. And then we also found that it is dropping another payload called xml.hta, which is another in-memory based HTA RAT. So this is something new that we observed is this action RAT is after around almost 15 to 20 minutes, it is getting some commands and it is dropping the final, the actual HTA stager, that is the stage 3 called as auto-tcp.hta. And this is dropping the same duser.dll name. But if you see that it is almost double in size, like 220 KB, and the first one is 220 action RAT. And then if we see the double action RAT that we named is around 440 KB. But this is downloaded via PowerShell, and it is completely doing file type enumeration and exfiltrating all kinds of documents. So cluster 3, we are not going to focus much on it because it is more or less the same. And the remaining 3-4 clusters will be completely different. But if you see that here it is downloading another different RAT, which is completely new .NET based RAT called KeyRat, which is again having the same set of C2 commands for communication. And these are the ArrestRat lures that we have again observed in 2023. And if you see that all of them are again related to Ministry of Defense targeting in India. So now going on to cluster 4. So in cluster 4, we have observed 3 new campaigns in the first quarter of 2023. And what we see that here, it is the typical initial infection where zip is leading to LNK and then HTA, but this time it is dropping 2 HTAs. And these both HTAs are running in memory to again drop 2 different versions of AllaKore RAT, though they are again connecting to the same C2 and dropping a DLL. But if you see or observe the decrypted AllaKore commands, so this AllaKore is again based on Delphi. So, and the specific commands, if you see after decryption are ping, pong, download, upload file. So remember these specific commands because these will be again used for the next correlation. And if you see these 3 specific campaigns, so in our telemetry hits we observed 3 spikes. So the first 2 spikes are in March, indicating the first 2 campaigns. That is the first 2 domains in there is revivelife.in and vparking.online, whereas again the third spike we observed is another compromised domain, that is smokeworld.in. So here, if you see two AllaKore RATs are dropped at the same time, but both, if you see the network traffic, so it is like trying to establish connection between the server, the attacker, and the victim machine, and it is basically ping ponging each and like both the victim and the attacker. And since it is again open source custom RAT, it is having additional file operations that are completely customizable. So if you observe in this cluster 4.3 campaigns, all the three lures are related to grant of allowances, which is again specifically targeting the Ministry of Defense, and there are some other lures related to the military officials and some other delegates as well. So now entering into the specific APT36, where we found a lot of correlation. So a little bit intro of this APT36. It is also known as Transparent Tribe, which is known to be like a parent group of SideCopy. And it as well targets both Linux and Windows systems. So what we observed is that the final payload that it uses, Crimson RAT, is like slowly having less and less VT detection rate. And then we observed that it is like shifting and using a lot of different packers like .NET Reactor, ConfuseRex, Ease Obfuscator, and Crypto. And at the same time, instead of not only like packing all these using different packers, what it is doing is it is also again encoding these packed Crimson RAT payloads using simple base64. And these payloads are embedded as OLE objects to some different kinds of macros like XLAM and then PPTs. So this is how it is this APT36 is exploiting. And if you see that initially the left-hand side is the usual macro that it uses, but additionally it has incorporated, to read these specific OLE objects that are embedded and then decode them into base64 and then execute it. So these are different variants of Crimson RAT. And if you see that over the time, it is using the same set of C2 commands, but there are just few differences, like a single digit is modified here or there, or an additional letter is used like a caps lock or a different symbol. So most of the times we observe that these variants are almost same, but are evading detections, though they have like almost similarity of more than 75% all the time. And coming to the lures, so again, similar to SideCopy, it has used significant event-based lures like income tax filing, and recently where the general elections have happened, so even that kind of lures are happening. So coming to the actual correlation, so we have seen one kind of reactor, that is .NET Reactor based payloads, and it is connecting to a C2 that is mentioned here, and it has resolved to 4 different IPs. So based on these IPs, when we pivot on this, we found that there is a .NET based AllaKore RAT. So previously we saw that SideCopy is using Delphi based, and if you see that commands like ping, pong, upload, and exfiltration commands and enumeration like list drives, list files. So these are completely same to that of AllaKore RAT of SideCopy. And at the same time, we found like a keylogger that is again a Crimson based Crimson RAT, which is similar to Crimson RAT, that is like a Crimson keylogger. So this is the second correlation. So the next big correlation that we'll be looking at is how we hunted for the next cluster. So we found that in between October and December of 2023, we observed 2 different campaigns that are, targeting again India, but we couldn't attribute it initially to APT36. So we have named it as Operation Rustic Web, and it is using Rust-based payloads, and then it is exfiltrating all these 2 different kind of web services. So then what we saw is that the lures that were used by this specific operation were also mentioned recently by BlackBerry in 2024 May, and another same lure was mentioned by Volexity in 2024 of June. But both of these are specifically targeting the Linux environments, and they are again APT36. So based on this, and a statement that is present in the blog of Volexity, where weak infrastructure links were found with SideCopy, but nothing detailed was mentioned. So then we started to hunt like if there are any open directories that is hosting a Discomoji, that is the payload that Volexity has mentioned. We found that we found an open directory, and if you see that we found almost 3 open directories, that is in May, July, and August. And all 3 were hosting payloads related to SideCopy as well. And if you see the naming convention or like the name of these compromised domains, all of these are related to education portals. So if you see left-hand side, the open directory is hosting a discomoji, that is a Linux-based payload on the left-hand side. But in the hidden URLs, it is also hosting the HTS that we saw previously, that is related to SideCopy. So this is just an overview of the complete diagram, where if you see that on your left-hand side, hidden URLs is completely, a typical SideCopy based infection chain, where LNK is loading HTA. But here, if you see that it is not dropping the actual EXEs, that is like AllaKore RAT or DRat. So instead, it is running all these RAT payloads in the memory of MSHTA, that is embedded inside HTA itself, and these are again connecting to the same C2. And if you see the C2, that is 64.188.27.144, so it is having a common name called win-P9 and that name. So this typical common name is always seen in Crimson RAT and different servers that are related to APT36. So this is the next correlation that we found. And if you see on the right hand side, so it is again targeting Linux based systems, where the Golang downloader is downloading the final payload from a Google Drive. So previously, Volexity found that it is downloading the final discomoji from, I think, a specific domain, but this time it was using Google Drive. And then it is again using emojis for C2 communication as the research that Volexity has published, and it is using Discord server for C2 communication and exfiltration. So these are some links that we have found to Pakistan that again increase the confidence level to attribute these APTs. So we have found that all of these HTA stages are not present in their typical locations. So they are like, we found them in locations like a public directory or on the desktop itself, and specifically at Pakistan-based geolocations. And then in the discomoji variant that we found, it was having an exfiltration message that is found in Pakistan's most popular language. I mean, basically this describes that I have given everything. What do you want? So basically, typically apt for the exfiltration message. And then we have also observed that victim traffic was again redirected from India to via Germany to Pakistan. So this was mentioned by Thibault, if he's there from Team Simru. So thanks to him. And then finally, we also found that these APT36 and SideCopy always use themes related to Kavach, which means armor. Basically, it is an application developed by the Indian government for its users. So these are some relations that we found which basically increase our confidence. And these are some HTS stages where we see that these are completely undetected on VT. So they are every time updating their HTS stages, where different kinds of decryption, string reversal, and embedding of these DLLs are used, and removal of WMI scripts, VB scripts that are used are completely removed. So one interesting thing that we found is that if you see the URL present in the red box, so that is related to Pakistan. And if you see the exact structure of this HTA, we have observed that this was used by Sidewinder APT. So SideCopy again is known as to copy TTPs of Sidewinder APT. So it is again, this HTA is relevantly very new. So it is again continuously copying TTPs from them as well. And these are some HTA-based RATs. So as I've said, that it is not dropping the actual P-based files, but it is again loading them in its memory. And we observed that on one of these open directories, it is actually hosting based upon what Windows version it is running. So based on that, it is hosting 3 HTA stages so that it can target that specific Windows environment. And a new RAT that we found that we named as Jetta RAT is having for the first time browser stealing functionality. And this browser stealing functionality is, if you see, and based upon our analysis, we found that it is completely copied from that of async RAT, where 30 C2 commands are using. Not the complete functionality of async RAT, but only the browser stealing functionality. And the same browser stealing functionality was also found in Discomoji as well. Specifically the Firefox exfiltration and stuff. So the decoy documents that we observed based on our hunting for these open directories, that is, if you see that all of these are related to some kind of assignments or surveys. So these are from the first two decoys, first two domains. And the third open directory, we found that again some kind of questionnaire, professional writing skills based on like student assignment and research work. So all these lures again point to education sector and not the typical Ministry of Defense or army targeting in India. So then what we see is that APT36 has started targeting the university students almost since 2022, and we have observed the specific spike in 2023 or February. It means that it is still continuously targeting, where in July of this year we see that it is using lures related to University of Delhi as well. So coming to the final cluster, so here we found more and more open directories, and this infection chain is completely different, where we found that it is using DOTM files to drop a batch files and then finally delete the VBA content so that it doesn't get detected easily. So this is the final cluster that we have observed. So initially, if you see in the blue boxes, so we can observe that it is trying to target again different ministries like Ministry of Defense in India related to Indian Air Force related lures, and specifically it started to we thought it initially started to target maritime sectors as well, because it is using like compromised domains and everything related to different ports, ships, dockyards that are present in India. But we observed that it is not specifically targeting maritime sectors, but manufacturing sectors, some specific docks, like one is Mazagon dock that we observed is again related to Ministry of Defense. So, and all the manufacturing sectors are some kind of contractors again related to this Ministry of Defense. So this is how we found that in this case again it is loading reverse rat as the final payload, and it is slowly shifting in its TTPs, where we can see that again MSI based payload is used to drop the reverse rat, and instead of exfiltration directly by the reverse rat, it is trying to drop further payloads down the line, like a cheeks, USB copier for its exfiltration. So these are some kind of lures, for example, Indian Air Force and other port-related lures that are used. So these are like a complete overview of all the correlations that we found, and here we can conclude almost that like APT36 is like an umbrella group under which operations like Rustic Web are completely correlated, where we see that the infrastructure and the services are completely shared between these both groups, and even the lures that were mentioned by other different AV vendors. And we have observed a complete correlation between APT36 and SideCopy, confirming again their subgroup division, where the lure files and the actual payload code-based sharing that we have observed, and then even sharing of infrastructure has been confirmed by these correlations. So like before concluding, these are some threat hunting I can say rules, like based on which we do our hunting. Like for LNK, these are some specific machine IDs associated with that LNK that they are like using every time, and some behavior based like MSHT and PowerShell triggering can also be used. And for hunting infrastructure, so all the open directories are hosted like on the compromised domains related to Lightspeed server, and the C2s are always like mostly located in Germany under the Contabo GmbH. So these are the different servers used for various payloads that we have found. And if you observe that reuse of completely the same IPs for different domains that we have observed since last year, since October 2023, since April 2023 till August of 2024. So these are all the compromised domains that we observed. And so finally, to conclude, so the takeaways is that again, Pakistan linked APTs are continuously targeting India, and not only government defense related sectors. So even SideCopy like APT36 has started to focus on like university students, not the education sector, I would say, to specifically gather student related information. And we think that it is mostly related to get this information to some terrorist related groups for its recruitment. And we saw that it is like for the first time using vulnerability in WinRAR, and at the same time like open source tooling that it has used, that we have observed with various RATs. And at the same time, since we saw that Indian government is slowly shifting to usage of Linux-based systems from Windows, so it has started to parallelly target both Windows and Linux systems, and we observed like lot of overlapping of code and infrastructure, confirming that both of these groups are again indeed related. And based upon the ongoing ongoing events, it is continuously updating its different lures, and this is so based on the tracking and hunting that we have mentioned. So that is how these APT campaigns have evolved over time. And recently, if we see that even some Pakistan related groups have already started focusing on Android as well, and they are even APT36 is known for targeting the Android users. So this is what the correlation that we found specifically for SideCopy APT36 and all Pakistan linked APTs. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.